Selena was always, after a concert, she would go to the front of the stage, on the side of the stage dressing room, sign pictures, autographs, real humble with anybody. She was not, nose up, stuck up, no, nothing like that.
She would go out with the people.
Oh, yeah. And this particular night, she was feeling under the weather. She was sick. We almost canceled the show, but she went ahead, was a trooper, and performed. And they were waiting, thinking, not customarily, Selena come out. So Ibrahim came out and said, hey, she's not coming out because she's sick. And one guy started throwing insults.
Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Real Grande podcast. Today's a special day because even though every day is special, we've spent already like an hour talking about like the history, right? Of a big piece of the history of the Rio Grande Valley. And with us today is Mr. Arnaldo Nano Ramirez, Bocum Nano, as you see on his head. I don't even know where to start. Mr. Ramirez was the owner of the Reál Event Center, the Reál. I messed that up.
La Reál.
Okay, but not the last name. Not the last name.
Well, it comes from the last name, but I cut it in three parts. La Reál, which means the real road, and it's La Reál Entertainment. So the real road to entertainment. La Reál.
There we go. Yeah, so, and just as a little backstory for you guys, before we get into his, so this is awesome because this is a whole generation of Valley history, right? So if you ask, if you're around your 20s, early 30s, you might not have experience with it. But, you ask anyone in the 80s, 90s, I mean, everyone was at the Reál on the weekend, probably on the weekday too, listening to concerts, right? Like the biggest names, right? That came here to everybody always has something to say about the Valley, but the Valley did something special here. And like I said, it's hard to even think of where to start, but I want to ask you before we get into other things, how does someone make such a big program, or like how does the Reál happen in the Valley? How does that even exist here?
Like I was saying, when I came out of the Navy, joined my father's business, which is Discos Falcon Records, he would host at the McAllen Civic Center every 3 or 4 months artists that recorded for our company. He would make a dance. Because back then, the only types of entertainment in the Valley besides the movies was the dances, the bailes. And there was an established baile grande on Mondays at the Civic Center for years. And I decided to compete into that market. And I started on Tuesday nights with bands that didn't play for the promoter that was hosting them on Monday. And we were in competition for a year and a half doing Tejano dances. I had Sunny and Sunliners, Agustin Ramirez, Ruben Ramos, Lil Joe, the Royal Jesters, and on and on. During the course of those 6 years that I was at the Civic Center, I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to have my own building, the Reál, because I was getting more informed about me possibly bringing in other types of music, country, rock, especially country. And of course, it became after searching for properties, I found this property on Benson Road and Expressway. Eventually became La Reál Entertainment Center for 30 years. Opened up in December 1971. And I hosted my very first country show 2 months later with Mo Bandy.
That was the first concert?
The very country.
Oh, okay, the first country
concert. First country concert. And that was basically the big major concert was Mo Bandy in March of 78. Later that year, of course, I hosted Juan Gabriel. Unbelievable. For ticket prices were $6.50. And the last time he played the Reál in 2001, before we went to the Dodge Arena, which is not Pain Arena, $250, I gave Juan Gabriel a plaque with a $650 ticket and $250 ticket, so you've come a long ways.
Yeah.
And I can't find that picture. I had it somewhere. So
you had him the first year.
In 1978, yeah, the first year I opened up. Never, ever in my wildest dreams did I ever think I was going to do country rock and what eventually became the Reál known for all types of entertainment, boxing, wrestling, bodas quinceañeras, whatever. I wanted to continue hosting my Tejano dances on Tuesdays. That was my concept. And on Friday and Saturdays, rent it out for bodas and quinceañeras. That's it. That was when I went to the bank to make my proposal. I had I was going to do so many events rentals, and that's all I had. Wasn't never my wildest dream that 2 months later I was going to start hosting country, and then I had the very first kind of rock show was Santa Esmeralda with the song called "Please, Oh Lord, Please Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood," and then I had Jim Dandy from Black Oak, Arkansas, was for basically the first rock band that played. And then at that time, pop music like Peaches and Herb, Sisters Ledge played that first year. So it was a snowballing that, of course, eventually, like we were talking earlier, and somebody mentioned that he would see a T-shirt from the old concert series, and they would see all the major cities, and in Texas just had McAllen.
Yeah.
Well, it would be Houston, McAllen. The only two basically cities is all those bands, Metallica, Motley Crue, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, George Strait, played. They weren't even playing in Austin, San Antonio, or Corpus. So the Valley were blessed, and I was blessed to be able to introduce all this big-time entertainment to South Texas. And, it went on for 30 years.
That blows our mind. So, okay, let me ask you this, and you can get in as far in as you want on details, but how does someone bring those names to the Valley? Because we all know, if we grew up here in the Valley, like, there's a stigma that big names don't come down here. And we were talking about it earlier, like, I guess not only with concerts, but just in general. Like, we somehow always tend to think that, like, oh, if it's in the real RGV, it's not going to be that big a deal. But like, how do you get Metallica or George Strait or Dwight Yoakam to come to McAllen? They probably never heard of it.
Well, there are agencies that represent those artists. And like I was saying earlier, back in 1983, I'm one of the pioneers of an organization called AIBA. And I would host, and of course we would meet up. There was only maybe 5 major agencies back in the 80s that managed all those bands. You're talking about country and then rock. And I was fortunate enough to also had a couple of good friends that were involved in the music industry. There's like Denny Eaton. My history with him is that we brought Creed at Mercedes in 1999, which I consider still today the biggest paid rock concert in the history of the Valley, with over 17,000 people.
Creed. That's the biggest concert. And you brought it.
I brought it down. I had my other good friend, Joe Miller, from San Antonio, that we also brought a lot of rock bands. And there was another promoter, he's no longer with us, Louis Gabriel. So I was fortunate enough. Well, they heard about the Reál, so actually I was attracted to that. They were attracted to me because of the venue, because there was not a Reál in existence in San Antonio, Corpus, Austin. So it was a venue that artists, it was kind of hard also because to come from Houston to down here, the routing, and even up to this day, routing becomes a problem sometimes to book good bands today because we're so far south.
Out of their way.
And the only way it works now, because of it's so expensive now to produce and do a show. The shows are unbelievable, the pricing to produce a show. So some of the artists, for them to come down for one gig in the Valley, it's not happening. So I had to get them on a route, or I'll call the agency, hey, I had this special event, this special date. And a lot of people, I do a lot of things for cities, produce a lot of festivals, and of course I get a wish list of artists that they want. But it doesn't work that way. For that particular day, what artists are available. Now, since I've been in the business so long, we got our contacts. There's the agencies. And, we were lucky enough this year with my other partners. I got a couple of partners because I needed to get into the current technology. Because back then it was just newspaper and a couple of radio stations. Now the technology of social media So I got me two, I call them my young cats, my young guns. After my son started it all, but then two guys that were active already here in the valley, and they do a fantastic job with social media. With this group, we were able to get this past year. We did. We had already done them before, but we did them a jump party. We did Lil Wayne, not only here in the valley.
You brought Lil Wayne to SPI?
No, we brought Lil Wayne to Pain Arena.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we did Corpus Christi, and we did a couple of outside the state. We did Reál and Shalimar also at Pain Arena. And, of course, my feather in the cap here was, of course, a Ringo Starr. Never in my wildest dream that I was going to bring down a Beatle, even though I was fortunate enough to bring a lot of big major stars by a Beatle. Man, it still blows my mind.
And that just happened.
This just happened in June, and also this past year we had also Ludacris. And just this past month and a half, we did a new artist called That Mexican OT.
Oh yeah, he's from El Paso, right?
He's here from Texas.
Yeah, he's from somewhere here.
So we still do about 20. We do about 20 shows a year here in the Valley of Corpus. This coming year we've got Lou Gramm.
Oh, we're hearing some names that haven't come yet. Lou Gramm?
Lou Gramm from Foreigners on sale January 25th. We've got after that we have at Smoking on the Rio, which we produce and we do at Mercedes. We got Judge Sterner with Mark Chestnut. And then we got Midland Under the Stars concert at the McAllen Civic Center in April.
All this year, in 2025.
And we got Los Lonely Boys for July 5th at the Island. And we're waiting for a confirmation date on Cheap Trick.
Okay. You said Alice Cooper too, right?
Cheap Trick.
Yeah, okay. Cheap Trick.
Alice Cooper is there on the borderline.
Yeah, I remember.
And then we got the date, but we haven't gotten the date, but we already got confirmation for America.
Okay.
So we got a lot of underworks, a lot of other bands.
So there's a lot of, because I mean everybody knows the Reál, but there's a lot of other things that you've gotten into, like that maybe people don't know. Like I mean, for example, everybody heard that Ringo Starr was coming, but I'm sure that not a lot of us realized that it was you who's bringing. Like you're still doing this.
Yeah,
you're still making this happen. You never retired then, right?
No.
And it's not going to happen.
Well, I got a couple of my partners. One of them, they say, we want to take are you going to give us a torch? And of course, they claim is that I don't want to give the torch away.
Yeah.
But it's got to be passed on.
You love it too much, though, right? It's not time yet.
It's also necessity, and of course, what am I going to do if I retire? This is what I love. This is what I've been doing all my life.
Yeah, true. So I was gonna ask you, because I mean you brought guys like we already mentioned George Strait. That just blows my mind.
You're wearing a t-shirt.
I'm wearing his shirt, by the way. One of my my all-time favorite artists. You've had them here: Metallica, George Strait, and then I was also looking at you had like Garth Brooks. Did you have Motley Crue come down here?
Yeah,
Linkin Park. Do you get to meet those guys too?
Yeah, it was real easy back in the days. Like I say, Metallica. With all the guys, JR, my son, would also.
He's back here, by the way. Shout out to Mr. JR.
JR.
His son, he's hanging out with us. So you said you got to meet Metallica? Or everybody, right?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, everybody. Nowadays, big major stars like Lil Wayne or even Ringo Starr, it's a real quickie. It's not as easy as back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000.
You mean like they're not accessible anymore? Or?
Well, I think it's because they've gotten so big. They're big stars. It depends on the caliber of artist. But next to that, they're all just like us, As a matter of fact, I've been lucky enough to be able to present them the history of the Reál book, especially they have performed. They were part of the history of the Reál. I'll autograph and give them a book. And if they hadn't played, still, so they'll know who they played for. So they'll know, hey, you're not playing just for any promoter. Now you're playing for a legend.
Yeah. Do you have any
modesty aside?
No, of course. I mean, we're talking about it right now, so we have to. It comes with the territory because it's true, man. there's no other way to put it. I mean, this is legendary. I mean, this is big anywhere. Like we could be in Dallas or Houston right now having this conversation, and it would be a big deal. But you're talking about McAllen, Texas. That's like the crazy thing that these guys were here, and not only that they came, but that they performed. Like, do you have any stories like with any of like I mean I know you got to meet all of them, right? Like Ozzy and the band members and everybody. Anything? Did you ever
Well,
witness anything
on
crazy?
the Aussie one, unfortunately, that's one of the. I wish I could have had that concert. It was an unfortunate situation that happened on South Padre Island. Kilgore, a spring breaker, got kidnapped.
Oh,
And
Mark
killed
Kilroy.
Yeah, and I had the band, the Ozzy Osbourne band, and it was the album, and the album had a cross crucifix upside down, and it wasn't appropriate for me to host that show. So I unfortunately had to cancel that show.
It was around the time of Mark Kilroy.
Yeah, it was in July. Mark Kilgore happened in March, and it was too fresh in the news. It was worldwide news of what had happened. But next to that, talking earlier about whoever thought I was going to have Axl Rose, I got thousands and thousands of pictures of artists that perform at the Reál. My favorite one is a black and white with Axl Rose in front of the stage.
At the Reál.
At the Reál.
In McAllen.
They opened up. They were not the headliners. They opened up as an opening act for Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper was headliner.
So you had Guns N' Roses and they didn't even headline their own. Wow, that's crazy. And then you got to meet them also?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know really who they were. My son, being in high school, he had heard from his friends. They were all excited that Guns N' Roses was coming. I didn't know who Guns N' Roses
So JR was freaking out more than you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this guy was excited for that. Yeah, who are these guys? Right, they're not Tejano, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Did you? So then Slash was here and
yeah,
the whole band.
Yeah,
Axl
the whole
Rose?
band. Yeah.
Man, was there any mishaps or any accidents that happened with any of the bands? Or, I mean, I know you have a bunch of memorabilia, but I mean, I know they all have stories to tell. Obviously,
Well,
right?
if you want to see a lot of stories, 30-year history, I got the Reál book that I produced. I already sold like 200. And I got a list. There's another podcast show that kind of featured the book, and through his show podcast, I've got a lot of requests through emails asking for the book, and I've been able to sell that way. But those 30-year history of Reál, I can't believe I kept memorabilia, posters, pictures, tickets from day one to the last day of the Reál. It took me 7 years in front of the computer to do this book, but the 300 pages. But there are stories galore, 30 years, history stories. It would have been 500 pages, but it would have been too thick. So I had to cut it on 300. So I put the major stories that I thought were more exciting.
Yeah.
People want to know.
Anything at the forefront
artists.
of your mind that sticks out of anything that happened or anything that happened with any of the... Because it wasn't only bands, right? Like, you had a whole bunch of other types.
Well, I had, the wrestlers, the Von Erich the family, Von Erichs, Andrew the Giant. I had the exclusive rights for 20 years on closed circuit fights, all championship fights, which are now like in pay-per-view. They were I had to be shown through links with the satellite. It was not pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So closed circuit. So for 20 years, I had all the closed circuit fights.
So the crowds got big then. People would show up from everywhere.
Well, like you were saying, like I said, also had the Jehovah Witnesses convention there. Had galore of bodas, quinceañeras. Had a lot of people that come and work on my house sometimes, like for the air conditioner. Talking to my son earlier, the plumbers. He said, man, we got married there. Or my wife and I got asked maybe 50 times to be padrinos because they met at the Reál and they wanted us padrinos. He said, hey, but I'm not going to be padrino de salón, I'll be padrino by name.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility, man. That's 50 kids, right?
No, hombre, olvídate. Throughout the years.
So when you think about like everything that you brought down here, what goes through your mind when you think about the fact that you entertained like an entire generation of, I mean, this is 30 years. Like, what do you think about that? When you think about the fact that you entertained generations of people in the Valley, what does that mean? How does that feel to you?
I stop and think once in a while, and every time I look at the book, I go, wow, I'm at all. I'm by myself. You know, bringing down, like I said earlier, the largest rock show ever in the history of the Valley. When Julio Iglesias was at his peak nationally or worldwide, I was able to bring him down at the field house in Pan American University because the Villarreal wasn't big enough. So I used the basketball stadium
That's a good problem
to
to have.
host. And of course, when Enrique Iglesias got huge, and Luis Miguel, even though Luis Miguel played his first concert in 1990 when he was 18 years old, the first U.S. concert tour, Luis Miguel kicked off at the Villarreal when a young kid. Then, of course, I hosted him. I did a bunch of shows at South Padre Island Convention Center because the Villarreal wasn't big enough. So eventually I remodeled the Villarreal in 2000, which I was able to host there again, Luis Miguel, Juan Gabriel, and, those caliber of artists at the Villarreal when they got remodeled.
As big as it gets.
Yeah. And like Juan Gabriel, I was always sell out 2 shows. And then, of course, eventually when Payne Arena opened up, Touch Arena back then, then I opened up Payne Arena, the very show, I talked to him earlier about Denny Eden, who was my partner for Creed.
Uh-huh.
We opened up in Arena with Alan Jackson. Very first concert that we opened up. 2 days later with another friend promoter out of El Paso, Lázaro Megret, we did 2 days back-to-back with Luis Miguel. And of course, I continued doing shows there at Payne Arena.
You still do, right? I mean, it's
still doing it.
Yeah, you don't stop. Okay, so you were saying that you had people come up to you that said, we got married because we met at the Reál. Everybody listening, they have their favorite memory, their favorite concert. What's your favorite concert? Your favorite concert from your venue?
I got one. It's together, Rocío Dúrcal y Raúl de Blasio.
Okay, so we got our friend Zach there nodding his head. So okay, why is that?
Oh my God!
Why is that stick out?
Rocío Dúrcal, I consider her probably the best female Hispanic singer in the history of the music industry. Raúl de Blasio, consider him probably the best pianist in the music industry, also in the history. And then together, and one night at the Villarreal, Jesus Christ. It was an unbelievable night. And there's other 2 bands that kind of, I would be busy in the box office and I had the concessions for every concert. I didn't get to really enjoy the concert that much because I was doing settlement, box office, get the checks. But there were 2 artists with no live productions. They were there on stage, but it drew my attention where you would never believe it. Eddie Rabbitt and Johnny Rodriguez. Johnny Rodriguez got the long hair, and we had fans because the air conditioner sucked back in the day. So there's the hair. Johnny Rodriguez when he was young, and the way he was performing, those 2 guys blew me away personally and musically.
You had to stop and pay attention.
Yeah, I stopped in front of the stage and said, wow. Besides the Rocío Dúrcal y Juan Gabriel, that one, I didn't work the box office. I told my staff, you work it. I'm going to sit at the table and enjoy the show.
Yeah, you have to, man, because that's the top of the line for you, right?
And my biggest disappointment.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
My biggest disappointment was, it was my birthday, and hired a legendary rock and roller, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh.
My wife and I got the first table right in front to celebrate my birthday. You would see Jerry Lewis on the piano, hitting the piano, the stool standing up and banging the piano. And he was real nice. Before the show, I showed you the pictures. He signed my posters. Yeah. We took pictures. We talked. Man, such a great guy, real humble. And before he knew it, he was supposed to start like at 8 o'clock. And all the house lights were on. All of a sudden, Jerry Lewis, without not telling anybody, he goes on stage and starts playing the piano. The band members, they'll freak out. They'll run to the stage and get into positions. Then I tell the guys, well, turn off the lights, put on the sound and lights. And the disappointment was that he sat there for an hour and a half just playing to himself, not putting on a show.
Oh.
So, man, all the excitement to see what Jerry Lewis represented, that rock and roll, that that was my biggest disappointment.
Because he was just kind of in his own world.
Yeah, he was in his own world, man.
Did he do that the whole show, or was it
the whole show? Sit down, just playing himself, didn't talk to the crowd, and then just got up and walked out. Okay.
On your birthday?
On my birthday.
Which birthday was that?
November 26th. I can't remember the year. It's there, and I think it's there on the
day that he signed the pictures and everything.
Yeah, the posters.
Yeah, because if you haven't noticed, guys, Mr. Nano here has an entire museum of an office. I mean, we're talking name the biggest bands you can think of, from these eras, and I mean, I'm looking at Merle Haggard. I hadn't even seen that one. Cheyenne, Cheech and Chong, which is a whole other thing, but that's funny that's there too. And okay, so we're in the Rio Grande Valley, right? A big name for us is Selena Quintanilla, right? Tell us about that. I know that you've had some run-ins with her, to say the least.
Not run-ins. We're friends. She was probably, I always considered Selena and Juan Gabriel that they had something special. They had like an angel. Man, Selena was probably the most humblest, funniest, unbelievable personality. Fantastic. It's unbelievable that we lost her. Like I was telling you earlier that I had visited my friend Abraham the day he got his first package of vinyl albums, of Selena's album. And Abraham, he said, man, I know you're going to be the first one in the world to ever get a vinyl from this particular album. And I knew I had something. The picture looked kind of familiar, and I said, you know what? I think I got, I have 400 or 500 T-shirts from those 30 years, legendary. I think a couple of the guys this year, they're worth a lot of money now, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can do with those historic T-shirts for all those bands.
And it's right there, guys.
And said, I recognize this picture. So I went and looked through my T-shirt collection, and I sure found a T-shirt of Selena that she had given me. And it was the same picture as the album. What are the odds? And she gave me that T-shirt, or the family gave it to me, actually. That was her last performance at the Reál, February the 3rd, 1995. The following week, the Tejano Music Awards. Carlos and I were fortunate enough to be one of the presenters of one of the awards, and we gave Selena her very last Tejano Music Awards, February the 11th. And then, 6 weeks later, she's gone. So, wow. But personally, Selena, I got other stories. I can't say them over the radio. With Abraham and I, we got some funny stories that happened. A couple of times that he came down. One time, I just say it is that he got arrested one time.
Okay. Down here?
Down here by cops. I had to go to
the PD station. Was this your fault? Was this Nano's fault?
Well, I think I can
get him in trouble.
I can tell the story, I think. Selena was always, after a concert, she would go to the front of the stage, on the side of the stage dressing room, sign pictures, autographs, real humble with anybody. She was not, nose up, stuck up, no, nothing like that.
She wouldn't go out with the people?
Oh, yeah. And this particular night, she was feeling under the weather. She was sick. We almost canceled the show, but she went ahead, was a trooper, and performed. And they were waiting, thinking, not customarily, Selena come out. So Abraham came out and said, hey, she's not coming out because she's sick. And one guy started throwing insults to Selena, kind of ugly insults. Of course, the whole time I was in the office. And then all of a sudden, he got too close to Abraham, and Abraham slapped him or hit him, right?
Pretty good, too.
Assault, right? So the guy went and filed assault charges.
Oh, wow.
And the guy, so I'm at the office settling, and I hear a knock. It's a cop. They go, hey, Nano, what? Abraham wants to talk to you. He's been arrested. He's outside in the front lobby area, right?
Oh, you had no idea?
No. So I go out there and see Abraham with his handcuffs and back of his body, right? Sitting down, rolled down the window. Abraham, what the heck do you do? Hey, this guy was insulting Selena, man. I couldn't take it at all. And the cops were friends of mine. He said, look, just meet us at the station and we'll let him go or something. Okay, so we wound up at the station. And finally, the guy went and the assaulted so he can sign the assault papers.
Yeah.
And finally, Abraham and the guy came out to say, "Look, I'll just give you an autograph picture, Selena. You know, and sorry I did that. Everything's okay." They shook hands. Everything's good. And about 3 months later, that that SOB went ahead and sued Abraham for assault.
He still did anyway.
Yeah, but it got thrown out of court. Nothing happened. So
I thought you were gonna say 3 months later he was selling it, but no,
yeah,
he came back to sue him.
To sue him, yeah.
Oh man! So and he waited that long too.
Yeah.
He must have been thinking one day, you know what, I could get something out of this.
Yeah.
Oh man! And he was the one.
Yeah, he instigated it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they insult your daughter, especially ugly insults that I heard later. People told me what he was the insults. You know, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, and that had to happen here, right?
Yeah,
of all places.
Stories galore. Get my book, and you'll see hundreds of stories, man. 30-year history of stories.
Oh. So you said she was like a real nice person.
I tell you, man. Like I said earlier, she's got that special gift. Just so likable. And Angel, Juan Gabriel was the same way. You just loved the guy, you know. He had that something special, that personality, nice, and those two people were special people. And Selena, unfortunately, every time I hear her songs or whatever, I still get kind of sad, shook up of what she could have been today, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, it is time for your Dulce Wine Valley homework of the week. This week in the comment section, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify or whatever, tell us who you'd love to see most perform live, whether any band or artist, or if you've already seen your dream band artist, tell us how it went. I'll tell you mine. So just last year in 2024, I finally got to see George Strait. He's probably my all-time favorite artist. I think it's George Strait and Metallica, which they don't have anything to do with each other. But I got to see George Strait, you know, in College Station, and it ended up being the most sold out show. The highest attendance record like in the country, so that was super cool. So tell us who your dream artist is to see live in concert, or if you have, tell us how that went. And this was part 1 of this episode. It will be part 2 next week, so keep an eye out for that one. We'll see you next week, and we'll finish this conversation with the owners of the Reál Event Center. And if you've been there, tell us how that went. Tell us, you know, who you saw or what you did at the Reál Event Center. Anyway, guys, thanks. We'll see you next week. That was the end of part 1, and see you next week on the Real Grande Podcast.